Hello everyone! Imagine starting a war, making breakfast, and discovering that the war is already over before your tea gets cold. It sounds impossible. But in 1896, Britain and Zanzibar fought a real war that lasted for about 40 minutes. Ships fired, a palace burned, hundreds of people were killed or wounded. And it all began with one man who decided to become Sultan without asking the British Empire for permission. This is the story of the shortest war in recorded history. In 1896, Zanzibar was a small island sultanate near the coast of East Africa. Today, it is part of Tanzania. The island was famous for spices and trade, but Britain had enormous influence there. Zanzibar was officially a protectorate. It still had a sultan, a palace, and its own flag. But the British controlled many important decisions. Even choosing a new ruler required their approval. Britain wanted a sultan who would support its interests. This arrangement worked while the ruler cooperated. Then the sultan suddenly died, and one man saw his chance. On August 25th, 1896, Sultan Hamad bin Thuwaini died unexpectedly. His cousin, Khalid bin Barghash, moved quickly. He entered the palace. Then he declared himself the new sultan. There was one problem. Britain had not approved him. British officials preferred another candidate named Hamad bin Muhammad, who was more willing to follow their demands. They warned Khalid to leave. He refused. Instead, he gathered around 2,800 defenders near the palace. Some were trained guards. Many were ordinary civilians. Khalid believed Britain might complain. He did not believe it would actually attack. Britain responded with an ultimatum. Khalid had until 9 o'clock on the morning of August 27th to leave the palace and lower his flag. British warships entered the harbor. Marines prepared to land. Their guns pointed directly at the wooden palace. Still, Khalid refused to surrender. He sent a message saying that he did not believe the British would open fire. The British consul answered clearly. They did not want to attack. But if Khalid ignored the ultimatum, they would. The deadline moved closer. 8:55. 8:58. 9 o'clock. The flag was still flying. This was not an equal fight. Khalid had thousands of men, but many carried old rifles and muskets. His artillery was limited. His only real ship was the Royal Yacht Glasgow. Britain had modern warships, trained sailors, marines, and powerful naval guns. The palace was also a terrible defensive position. Much of it was made from wood. It stood directly beside the harbor. The British ships could hardly miss it. Khalid may have hoped that Britain was only trying to frighten him. If so, that hope lasted for about 2 minutes. At 9:02, the first British shells were fired. The bombardment was immediate. British shells smashed into the palace. The wooden buildings caught fire. Zanzibar's guns tried to answer, but they were quickly destroyed. The Royal Yacht Glasgow fired at the British fleet. That did not go well. British ships returned fire and sank it in the shallow harbor. Smoke covered the waterfront. Defenders ran from the palace. The Sultan's flag was eventually shot down. Without the flag, the British assumed resistance had ended. By around 9:40, the firing had stopped. The entire war had lasted roughly 38 minutes. The war was short. It was not harmless. Around 500 people on the Zanzibari side were reportedly killed or wounded, including civilians caught near the palace. Britain suffered only one wounded sailor. The difference showed how unequal the conflict had been. A wooden palace and outdated weapons had faced a modern imperial fleet. Zanzibar never had a realistic chance. The British quickly occupied the area and placed their preferred candidate, Hamad bin Muhammad, on the throne. Khalid's rule had lasted only 2 days. His war had lasted less than 1 hour. Khalid escaped from the palace and hid inside the German consulate. Britain demanded his arrest. Germany refused. He later escaped by boat to German East Africa and remained away from Zanzibar for years. Britain now controlled the Sultanate more directly, while the new Sultan held far less real power. The conflict became famous for its length. Some sources say 38 minutes. Others say 40 or 45. It depends on which opening and final shots are counted. But the lesson is the same. The shortest war in recorded history ended quickly because one side never had a chance.